Hello, everyone. Josh and I, we'd like to give you something for free.
That's right. We got a brand new book coming out. It's called Love People, Use Things. It comes out July 13th. But if you pre-order it by June 1st, you get the free Love People Companion Workbook. Head on over to lovepeopleusethings.net to find all the details.
The Minimalists.
How do you make new friends in your 30s or 40s? It's not as effortless as it was when we were younger and didn't have all of life's responsibilities.
What's funny here is we tell ourselves this. We make up this narrative.
The good old days.
Yeah.
It was easier back then.
Right. It was always easier. It was, but it was also harder.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a 3D world in 2D. Mm-hmm. It's the Norman Rockwell painting. That's nostalgia. It creates that 2D version of our past self. Oh, it was so easy. It was the hardest to make friends in high school. Remember how difficult it was because you were an outsider and it was so difficult.
And you're forced to choose from only so many people.
Right.
So yeah, in a lot of ways it is more difficult. Yeah.
I would tell you now, I've incorporated more meaningful relationships in my life now that I'll be 40 next month. And in the last 10 years, so since I turned 30, then my first 30 years. You are like the one big exception from that.
Right.
Sean, I knew from the corporate world, but even now our relationship is considerably different from what it was in the corporate world. Our relationship in the corporate world, I, for whatever reason, was in a position of power, right? And now we work together. It's not that like, we're do this, do that, whatever. No, it's like we work together. Mm-hmm. And what I've realized is like I don't want power. I want freedom, and I don't want to take other people's freedom as well. Yeah. Now, ultimately, I'll have veto power on something if it's like, well, I want to write the sentence this way, and Sean wants to write the sentence that way. Okay, well, I'm going to make the final decision on how I write my sentence. Yeah. But I'm also not going to tell him how to make the final decision on how he writes his sentence. Right. And so, what I've realized is that as soon as they got clear on my values. By the way, we have a free values worksheet, theminimalists.com/V. You can download it there for free. As soon as I got clear on my values, and so let's talk about the 4 types of values real quick, Ryan. We're building a house. You have a foundation, then you have structural values, so foundational values, structural values, surface values, sort of the walls, the drywall, and the paint.
Yeah, a piece of art on the wall.
Yeah, the things that make your home beautiful. And then you have the imaginary values. That's putting a giant fence around your house that doesn't have a door, and now you can't get in the house. Yeah. You've ruined your other values with the imaginary values. We rarely ever stop to think about our values. Whenever we do, we usually think about our imaginary values. Oh, I really want that car. That Lexus would make me so much happier.
Yeah. Dude, I want that $15,000 Viking stove.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could spend so much on a stove.
Wow.
I know, it's unbelievable, man. But that is an imaginary value. Like, you don't need a $15,000 Viking stove to cook a good meal.
Right. And not that there's anything wrong with owning that.
Of course not.
It's not immoral to own it, but it's also not something that you need to let your happiness or contentment be contingent on.
Exactly.
And so when we look at our values, quite often we're spending all this time with all these people who don't share our values. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong and you're right. It means there's a lack of compatibility. And as we said, and I think it's the hardest part of that triad, the relationship has chemistry, compatibility, and love. Love is easy when you have awareness. When you open your eyes and see and don't try to change people, it's easy to be loving. And it makes life so much easier. Chemistry is easy because you are attracted to someone either sexually or intellectually. There's a chemistry there, right? Or you can just have a dynamic together. You and I have a dynamic on the podcast, right? There's a lot of sexual tension between us.
You could cut it with a knife.
But what we really have is some compatibility. Yeah. Now, you might say, well, wait, does it mean you guys have the same personalities? No. In fact, in Love People Use Things, we write about how we have polar opposite personalities, but we have the same foundational values. Right. And we even have similar, not the same, we have similar structural values. So our house is sort of arranged similarly, but then our surface values are totally different. Yeah. And that's what makes life interesting. You can look at your surface values sort of like your preferences. Yes. We have different preferences. Right. You can look at your structural values as your interests. You can even have different interests. We have similar interests, but then we have different interests. Yeah. That's what makes life interesting and passionate. If we were exactly the same in every respect, then you would lose that sort of dynamic, that back and forth. You would just have a twin with the same personality.
Totally agree. To answer Ray's question head on, how do you make friends, regardless of what age you are? You have to put yourself out there. I mean, you really have to go out of your way to associate with more people. So how do you do that? You can join a bowling league. You can go to meetup.com and you can see what different things are happening in your neighborhood, in your city, and you can go meet some new people. You can go to a place like Minimalists.org and you can just go to the online city. And there is like you said earlier, Josh, thousands of people who are on this in this group. So, the ultimate answer, because Ray, I could sit here and list another 20 different ways to go make friends, but you have to put yourself out there. And I think one of the hardest things that people face, and maybe this is what Ray is facing, is, for the 10 people you go and hang out with, you might have one person that is that might make a good friend to you. You might have zero out of the first 10 people you hang out with. So you have to accept the fact that you're not going to click with everyone. Even if, and the worst is like the rejection, where maybe I get along with you, but you're like, yeah, I don't really like hanging out with that Ryan guy. I mean, that's even worse. But Ray, you have to go out there. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be a little vulnerable, as Brene Brown would say. You got to like really embrace that vulnerability when you're going out and making new friendships. Yes, I could see where you don't have, in my 40s, I mean, I still have the energy to go make friends, but I imagine in my 50s, 60s, like I'm going to have less energy to put into filtering through a lot of people to make new friends. I understand there's some obstacles, but you have to put yourself out there, Ray.
Let's just get clear on one thing. You are complete without these friends.
Amen.
And so needing friends is the perfect way to avoid establishing meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
Because needing someone is not love, it is clinging. And when you think of the sort of visual image of clinging, that doesn't feel like love ever. It feels suffocating.
Yeah.
Right? And so you are complete in an empty room. You are complete without friends. You don't need the friends to make you happy. You don't need them to make you content. You certainly don't need them for peace or tranquility. You don't need them. Now, a thriving relationship, a meaningful relationship can aid those things for sure. It is not a requirement. Now, with that said, ask yourself, what do you want? It's not a friendship. Because you can get a friendship anywhere. What do you actually want? What are you really looking for? And what is your ideal friendship? Are you looking for a significant other? Are you looking for a partner? Are you looking for someone to go bowling with? These are different things. What do you want? And if you can get hyper specific on what you want, when you want it, how long you want it, how that is going to not get in the way of your tranquility, if you can determine that, you're not looking for a friendship even. You're looking for individual qualities and personalities that match you and augment, amplify, enhance your experience of life as opposed to getting in the way of your peace.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy this video? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists today. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.